Hello and welcome to another edition of Gas It Out. My name is Gavin Emmett, and alongside me, just the one flying solo co-host, Neil Hodgson this week. Our third wheel, our gooseberry, unfortunately, isn't going to be with us, is he?
No, it's going to feel quite good without Sylvan. We can slag him off. We can talk about how useless he is, and
Not mention any injuries,
yeah, I mean,
although I did
obviously,
get a paper cut earlier.
will he have arrived yet, Gav? He was flying to Japan. He would have landed, won't he, by now? But
Yeah,
bless
he was
him.
going via Seoul, wasn't he? Going via Korea. So I'm not sure because then he was on to Osaka and then he's got to get from Osaka to Suzuka. That's not a local
No,
journey either. So,
and then
yeah.
test straight away, that's after. Well, I tell you what, he's a grafter, isn't he? I mean, you've got to say that he is not work shy. Bless him. So yeah, it won't be the same without him. So you'll just have to put up with my dribble, Gav.
I think we can manage that. I think we can deal with it. Just myself and Neil then this week to discuss what was another wild weekend. We're having a run of them, aren't we, at the moment? There are talking points galore for us as we get into the best of the Dutch TT at Assen. It's always a landmark moment on the calendar, always last week of June. And the track itself tends to throw up some great racing. You think back to some of the classics that have been around there. I think back to obviously the Rossi Marquez. There was echoes of that in the race on Sunday. And you think of Edwards and Hayden, but you think also 2018, 2016, there was been some absolute classics around there. Valentino Rossi taking his last win, his 100th win as well around that circuit. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about that place. We were discussing the 1998 weekend, weren't we? With Doohan and things that he was doing that time. You know, it's just a place that's full of so much history. I think 89 was a classic, wasn't it, as well? Seem to remember there was an all-time classic in 1989 or 92, was it?
92 or 91, Doohan and Schwantz.
Yeah. Barros was leading. What was the one when Barros was leading when he was teammates to Schwantz as well? Was that 93 maybe?
Yeah, and there was one where Lawson crashed at turn one after the kink. Him and Schwantz collided in whatever year. It was Rainey and Schwantz, and Rainey went on at the final chicane on the last lap. It is a proper rider's track, Gav. It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, I know it's boring, keep harping on. They changed that first sector, and it's nowhere near as good. That's is unreal, and it just builds, doesn't it? And it creates a bit of slipstream, a bit of draft, and it gives you a chance. And then that last corner's just amazing. That last chicane is the last corner, just invites the pass and invites drama.
Yeah, he is a new legend as well. Ogura. I is legend. I don't know what how you go about it, but another fantastic weekend. That is now 4 podiums in a row, including victory on Sunday ahead of his teammate Raul Fernandez. Ogura won. He had problems to deal with throughout the race. Jorge Martin had escaped at the front. He had his own issues with his ride-out device, did Ogura. He was back in 5th, 6th place on the early couple of laps. Had to work his way through, did so. Then the ride-out device stuck down. And yet, even despite those problems, sparks flying, he then went on and won by 2 seconds. Let's start, first of all, because there's lots to talk about in there. Marco Bezzecchi, his weekend. Marc Marquez, of course. We're talking about the championship. Fabio Di Giannantonio. You know, lots of us to get our teeth into. But we've got to start with haven't we? First of all, it is the huge talking point. The run of form that he's on. He's just unlocked something, and that culminated in a first Japanese winner in 22 years.
Yeah, absolutely unreal. And it does help when you've got the best bike on the grid. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. What it's done is it's been able to unlock. It's been able for him to really show his full potential, and he just looks so good. He was good on a Moto 3 bike. He was good on a Moto 2 bike. I'm not going to say great, even though he won the World Championship. I know that sounds harsh. He wasn't one of those riders that I thought was going to move to MotoGP and change things and win races. And I just thought it'll be a solid MotoGP rider. That's what I thought. But he's adapted his riding style. He's so calm and cool. You see him after the race, he's not got a bead of sweat on him. He's such a different individual. He's like nobody else in the paddock. And I know, obviously, some Japanese riders are quite reserved. That's their nature. That's the way a lot of the Japanese are. But he seems even more extreme in that direction. We see him on Sunday morning, don't we? Sometimes in the Trackhouse hospitality. So, and occasionally he's sat on his own and he's playing chess on his phone. I've said this before, there's no entourage, there's no bullshit around him. He doesn't want any attention. He looks quite embarrassed. He's humble, but he rides like an animal. He rides so precise. He's got a beautiful riding style.
Very different riding style as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Everyone that's been coming through, like doing things a different way, and all the other riders are intrigued by it.
Yeah, he definitely rides different. He's confident with the bike backing in a lot, even though we haven't seen it as much in recent rounds, but he's able to do that. And he sort of moves on the bike, but you don't see him move. But he hangs off a lot. It's not quite Jorge Martin, let's say, esque, but it's not far off. And he's small. He weighs 58 kilos. We were talking to Cal Crutchlow, weren't we, on Sunday morning? And he said, "Oh, just so you know, I don't know if you know this, but I know you lads have been saying that I struggles early on during the race. Do you know why it is?" And we're like, "No, not really. Go on." He went, "It's his weight." He said he's so light, he can't get that front tyre pressure up or the temperature or the feeling from it. It takes him 2 or 3 laps. As Sylvain explained very well, didn't it, on the last podcast? Nowadays, on a MotoGP bike, you start with so little tyre pressure because you know once you get in the race, in the battle, if the track's hot as well, the pressure's going to go up. And once it gets over a certain amount, it becomes a very, very greasy and it's hard to cope with. So because ice so light, it takes him even longer to, let's say, activate that front tyre.
Yeah, and then when he does, he comes into his own.
He does.
You know,
he does.
In Czech Republic, he got stuck a couple of times behind people, didn't he? Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, he was there, not able to make the move. He's made moves throughout the year. We saw the last corner in Barcelona on Pedro Costa. So he can be aggressive. And he was aggressive at the right time, wasn't he, at the weekend? He showed an incredible amount of patience, showed an incredible amount of racecraft, the trust in his ability to still have that pace come the end of the race. The moment for me is between turns 1 and Strubben, he's activated the ride height device by accident. We don't know what's happened. We were talking to one of his mechanics at Amsterdam Airport on Sunday night, and even they weren't quite sure what had happened there. But feeling maybe in the battle, in the instability, maybe he's just knocked to the button that essentially starts the process of it lowering. But then the cool headedness, the sang-froid, to just go, right, okay, that's happened. I'll go again, and then go again, and then go about it. Pass Jorge Martin, aggressive, quickly, at the right moment, then go after his teammate and go on and comfortably win the race in the end. Just showing that he's grown a lot, hasn't he, over this year?
Yeah, because if you think of his rookie season, he started so well in Thailand last year, but then did what we see a lot of rookies do, had a couple of big crashes. And it's horrible when you're on a MotoGP bike for the first time and you don't quite understand the tyres and it flicks you over the handlebars and you break some bones. You start to lose a bit of confidence, a bit of feeling, a bit of understanding. But he's worked hard. There was a dip, definitely, in his form last year, but he worked it out. And he actually, if you think, he didn't start this season incredible. It wasn't bad. But I expected a little bit more from him in Thailand because he'd gone so well there the year before. And we saw how strong the Aprilias were around there. But he's quietly gone about his business. And is he 25 points off the championship lead?
I mean, he is in the championship. I can put the championship up if you want.
Yeah. He's a title contender, isn't he? He's a proper title contender, sat there in 4th place. And we're going to go to Sachsenring in a couple of weeks' time. I know it's a completely different track, but you need a motorcycle that turns at Sachsenring, and that's what we can see the Aprilia does. So he will have a real good chance. And when you look at his rivals, Bezzecchi, he's destroyed Bezzecchi and Martin at the last 2 rounds, they've had nothing for him at all. And I feel deep down he's a bit, even though Raul Fernandez has had a really solid weekend, I just all round looks a little bit of a better rider than him.
Yeah, in the last 3 races, he picked up a 4th place back in Hungary, then the 2 second places in the Czech Republic, and then, of course, second in a win in Assen. And in doing so, it means he's the rider most on form in the last 3 rounds. Marco Bezzecchi, in the meantime, has scored very, very few points. Was it the 4th place on Saturday in Assen, the 3rd place on the Saturday in Hungary? But that's it. It's minimal points. It's 16 points is that he's picked up. And yet Ogura now finds himself in 4th, 168. In fact, he's only 18 behind Bez. Jorge Martin leads the way on 193, with Fabio Di Giannantonio right in the mix. We'll talk about him in a second and what he's been going through. He's on 177, and Marc Marquez still in the hunt. In fact, he leaves the Netherlands the same margin as before, and I think as a brand, they would consider that a win. Just to stick on stick on Ogura for a moment, just to complete the Ogura thing. What question I was asking myself, and maybe you've got an answer for me, is we talk, for example, about Pecco Bagnaia or Marco Bezzecchi even in the sprints. If they're not at the front, and Marco Bezzecchi's shown that when he's at the front, very, very hard to stop. But when they're not at the front, that comeback, that able to get that front tyre working, even those 5 laps in when the tyre pressures are up, that doesn't happen. The forward progress doesn't appear to happen. Yet, like Marc Marquez, I'm not equating Ogura to Marc Marquez, but like Marc Marquez, has this ability, even though he's in the pack, 4 or 5 laps in, to come into his own, to move forward. And he has done that consistently throughout this season. I think back to, he should have been on the podium in Circuit of the Americas, if we remember as well.
That's right. Yeah.
There'd been other chances this season when he should have been there. But now with the qualifying, he seems to have unlocked something, being able to get up the front. But it's not like he's gone and won from the front. He's had to fight from 5th, 6th place each time, hasn't he, to be in the battle? What do you think he's doing then?
Well, I think a bit of it is probably that the situation with the front. I think the way he rides, I just guess he doesn't overload it. So, like, he's almost the opposite to Bagnaia. Bagnaia, if he gets behind somebody, he finds it hard after 2 or 3 laps. It's the polar opposites. Think about it, right? So Bagnaia is explosive off the starts. We've seen in the last 2 rounds, makes quite a few passes on those opening laps, 2 or 3 laps. And then you can almost see the point when Bagnaia is... sorry, it's boring that we're talking about front tyre pressures, by the way. I do understand this, sorry. But we have to explain it. You look at Bagnaia, and it looks like he gets to a point, he's got grip, and then it goes. And then as soon as his front tyre pressure goes up, he can't ride with it. Where Ogura looks like he starts where he's not got grip, and then when the pressure comes up, he's then able to fight in that situation. I've spoken to some crew chiefs in the past about this, and it depends on what your strategy is. What most teams do is try and give the rider the best setup throughout qualifying to do a fast lap time. Some of the other clever crew chiefs give them a bike that this is what it's going to feel like throughout the race. So almost having his bike where, let's say, he's got a little bit more front tyre pressure, and you set your bike around that. So that means when he's in all these battles and the big points are up for grabs on a Sunday, he's able to feel comfortable with that sensation, with it moving. So maybe that's part of it. I mean, he's a very instinctive rider. Like I said, he's the most unaggressive looking individual you will ever meet. Like I said, he's just a real quiet, humble guy, isn't he? But when he puts his visor down, he attacks, and he's always been like that, even in the smaller classes.
Yeah, but the weird thing about that is, I always thought of him. Maybe this developed more in Moto2, but someone who'd be good on an Austria, a Motegi, like some of these hard braking circuits, because that was sort of one of his skills, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering whether there's something about not loading the front end, whether he does it with stamping on the rear brake, or there's some way
he is the king of the rear brake. I know the majority of MotoGP riders use a lot of rear brake, but eye definitely is the Marc Marquez way. Obviously, we know Marc uses a lot of rear brake, and that does help pull the bike back. It does help just take a bit of load off the front. So whatever he's doing, he's found that sweet spot, and the others will have to watch out because he's like I say, he's a title contender. It's brilliant. What a year we're having though with the championship. How it's just concertinaed together. The first 3 races of the year were pretty boring. Bez led every lap. It looked incredible, didn't he? Thankfully, Bez. Yeah,
we were worried.
But thankfully, Bez made a few mistakes in the sprint races. Bear in mind when I say thankfully, I'm only saying it's not that I don't like Bez. It's just it's a long season for us to commentate, Gav, isn't it, on these races? And you don't want one rider just absolutely dominating. So, what a year we are having.
Yeah, 6 different winners in the main Grand Prix so far, 6 different winners in the sprint races. And of course, that's without the likes of Pecco Bagnaia winning a race, Pedro Acosta winning a race, without Raul Fernandez winning a race. Fermin Aldeguer, there were a number Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez did though, didn't he? He won back in Jerez. But anyway, my point being that there are people who aren't there week in, week out, but any given week, we don't know who's going to win. And you actually said something at the top. He's on the best bike. Yeah, he is. But just like when Marc Marquez was dominating people on the Ducati, other people on that bike too. Yeah. He's actually probably on the 4th of the 4 Aprilias. Jorge Martin,
you would say that.
Marco Bezzecchi and Raul Fernandez. Well, his team will tell us they've all pretty much got a similar bike. You think the factory team probably have a little bit more because they're a factory team and they tend to have more data, more analysts working for them. So ultimately, he's beating those 3 and quite handsomely as well in recent rounds. Could we just talk about Trackhouse and Raul Fernandez as well, just before we go to our first break? And that's what a job as a team they're doing. Davide Brivio's put them all together. It's not been going long. Trackhouse. They took up, of course, it was a Phoenix rising from the ashes of the old Petronas SRT run by Razlan Razali. And we're in a point now where they've just had a 1-2 in both the sprint and the main race, with both the riders that at points have been unfancied, and you weren't sure whether they were going to be able to cut it in MotoGP. And it just goes to show how good the field is from top to bottom in the MotoGP class.
Yeah, it is unreal what the Trackhouse boys have done. You read the results out, what they'd achieved at that race at Assen last year. What was it?
It was 11th in a crash, I think, for Raul, and the 20th to 16th, off the top of my head, for Ogura. But it was somewhere in that ballpark.
Like, what a turnaround, though. But once Davide Brivio got involved with that team, there were some personnel changes, obviously the experience that someone like he brings to the team. Every Sunday morning, to mention it again, we always go to their hospitality because they do a really good breakfast. So we go in there nice and early, and just look at the experience in there, though, when we're having breakfast, when you look at the quality of the team, all the engineers, the mechanics, they're all veterans. We know them all, don't we? We know the majority of them. Quite a lot of Brits in there. Well,
I've got a very British team, hasn't he, on his side of the garage.
Exactly.
A lot of Brits.
Yeah, and they've been there, done that. And you know what? And I don't know if this is exactly right, but the beauty sometimes of not being the main factory team is this is the bike we've got. Keep it simple. We know the base, the DNA, this bike's working really well. We're not testing any new aero parts. The factory team do that. That's always as it is. And that can be an advantage, but it also can be a disadvantage, and people forget that. And not to turn it back to me, but when I raced in World Superbikes for quite a few seasons, I was on the year-old Ducati when I was riding for GSE in the early 2000s, up against the factory teams on last year's bike, and it was bloody brilliant because she got the last year's model that was fully sorted. They got all the tweaks out of it, and you never changed it. You played with your setting, of course, but you focused more on you. And I think that's what maybe is going on a little bit at Trackhouse. Meanwhile, we know there's been tension in that factory team, the Aprilia team, proper tension between everybody. If you think about it, it's
the pressure. You can see the pressure. It's that big.
Yeah. Well, it's almost become worse than ever because after Mugello, we were talking to Paolo Bonora, and it's like, I know they were never getting ahead of themselves, but they must have been feeling very, very smug. It's probably the right word, but look how quickly it's changed, and what a horrible feeling when you've had such a lead for that all now to have just evaporated, and we're not even at the halfway point. That's next weekend, or the weekend after, and it's wide open. It's really hard to call, and there's just lots to look forward to. Makes our job easy, Gav.
Yeah, it does. It does. And there'll be loads more for us to get stuck into later on in this podcast. When we come back, we'll talk about the factory team in Aprilia, their fortunes over the racing weekend, what's gone on at Ducati, KTM. What's the tale? What's the story? Neil has got a theory. I'm going to hope that he shares with the wider world.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know
obviously.
whether it was a real theory or one that comes on a Sunday night at an airport when you're trying to pass the time because you sat there waiting for your flight for 3 hours. We'll find out.
Hang on. I think normally the theory starts after the third beer, but anyway, hold your breath.
Welcome back to Gas It Out. We are discussing the Dutch TT in MotoGP that took place at Assen. I wasn't quite sure where to start. We spent more perhaps time than I was expecting on Ogura and Trackhouse, but I think he and they fully deserve it after everything that they did at the weekend. Raul Fernandez, excellent also. But we've got to talk on the other side of the coin. That's all positive. Everything that was going on there. Even Ogura trying to waft away the dry ice as he came up the lift onto the podium. There's another clip that I've seen hiding behind his motorcycle when Jorge Martin was trying to fire champagne over him. Just not bothered, not wanting to get into I think I described it, histrionics. He doesn't want any of that, does he? He doesn't want it. It reminds me a bit of Casey Stoner in that. Yeah, I'm fine. Just give me a bike. I'll have a ride. I enjoy my riding side of things.
So true. Imagine if that had been Alicia Spargaro.
Yeah.
He'd still be stood on there. He'd be still on there now getting selfies, wouldn't he? Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
But we've got to talk about the bad side for Aprilia. I spoke to Paolo Bonora after the race, and I think we ran the interview, but I think we only ran the bit about Bez. He went on for about 5 minutes, as he tends to do, Paolo. He likes to give you a full and frank, and he kept saying, I'm just being transparent here. I'm just being transparent. And a lot of it was a bit like, over the weekend, instability here and there. They know nothing's won, that kind of thing. But I think it was the long and short of it was a bittersweet weekend for them because ultimately it's an Aprilia 1-2-3. It's an Aprilia 1-2-3 in the Grand Prix in Assen. However, their number one rider, and he has to be now. We talked about it a little bit over the racing weekend. Marco Bezzecchi is staying with the team. Jorge Martin is moving to pastures anew. So instantly, with him going to Yamaha, they're not going to want to do what Ducati had to do and give up the number one plate on their motorcycle. And so Bez is going to be their chosen man. They would still obviously want to win the title with Martin and still want to win the title with Ogura, but not as much as they would for Marco Bezzecchi. That much is sure, isn't it? And yet they've watched him throw points away with his hands in Brno, and they've watched him throw points away coming into turn 15 at Assen on the second lap of the race. What was your reading of what went on in Bez's crash?
Well, he was always strong through that part of the track all weekend. It's really was it the opening lap or the second lap? Lap 2, yeah. And he was trying to set up a pass. And look, you can't blame him. You worked to your strengths, so that was the point. The problem was he was trying to pass Marc Marquez, wasn't he? He was trying to set up Marc Marquez, and Marc struggled through the section before, but always rushes into that left-hand corner. So Marc's already pretty special around left-hand corners. We've talked about this many, many times. And I think it was just that little bit of the combination of that. It's early in the race. He's closing in on the man who's the king of that corner. But he knows that if you carry speed through turn 15, you can get onto the right-hand side of a rider and outbrake them into the chicane. And that's what he was trying to do. And literally, at the point he's just thinking about that, you're down. He crashed so fast. It goes that quick. He didn't get a chance to save it. And it was bloody fast, 120 miles an hour. And you are, I tried to explain it to Susie, didn't I, during the weekend, about when you crash at that speed, you like when you get a stone and you skim it across water and the stone just bounces along. That's essentially what happens with your body in the gravel. But if it grips at any point, then you tumble. And it was as big as you get. Whenever you see a rider go head to toe, that when there's somersault that way, normally you either break your ankles or badly sprain them, or you've got a chance of damaging your vertebra. So I've seen quite a few images of this crash afterwards from people's where they filmed it from the grandstand.
From the crowd.
Yeah, Bezzecchi's out cold.
He's out, isn't he?
Afterwards, isn't he? Yeah, he's out. So he'll feel so bad today. I mean, obviously he'll feel bad about the points, but he'll be beaten up.
That's secondary, isn't it? Really. First of all,
after a crash that big,
exactly, that he's okay because and he reached the barrier. He just nudges it at the end. But even that nudge, trust us when we say it might only have been 30 kilometers per hour at that point. It'll still have hurt when he's smacked against it, and something smacking against something solid. Don't forget the gravel was a topic of conversation for the riders over the weekend. It has been in the past at Assen. That's the old classic bind the eye, wasn't it, with the handfuls of gravel. But I just think, we haven't to lose sight of the fact that it's his fitness is first and foremost. But Neil, it's another mistake. That now is what is it now?
Wow.
9 crashes that we're working out that have come in races over the year.
Yeah, well, it crashed in the first race of the year.
Crashed in
Thailand
in the sprint
when he touched the curb on the inside.
Crashed in the USA from the lead in the sprint. Crashed in Jerez in the sprint as the track got wet on the slick tyres. You can sort of forgive him for that. Crashed in Hungary, but that was him being taken out by Jorge Martin in turn 1. 2 laps to go in Brno in the sprint, slid out at T3 with a couple of laps to go, and of course smacked the marshal, and then he's crashed out again. So maybe what would that be? It'd be 6 race crashes then over the course of the year that he's had. Okay, that's fine. Marc Marquez and co, sort of thing. You can imagine him having that. Unfortunately, though, because the Saturdays aren't working for him, and because there've been a couple of occasions this year, where he's just not been quite able to get to the top, it's costing him dear.
Yeah. To win this championship, as we come into the second half of the season, he has to change it completely. I mean, just think of all those points he's thrown away. If he'd have just had a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, like what a lead in the championship he would have had. Think of last year, at the end of last year. He was strong at the end of last year, but then think of the crash where he took Marquez out.
Yeah, Indonesia.
He's been prone in Indonesia. He's been prone to make some big mistakes. Do you remember how strong he was that weekend?
Yeah. Well,
he should have absolutely dominated both races. He did everything he could not to win the sprint. And then I think he did win it in the end, the sprint, but he was way back and he was making a mess of it. It was after a bad start. And then obviously that mistake on the opening lap. So, I mean, he's never won a world championship before. The pressure's never going to get any bigger. He knows he's the number 1 rider in Aprilia. He knows and he knows he's going head to head against his teammate who's won a MotoGP world title. I mean, he's invited everybody else in. I know he's not leading the championship now, Bez, but obviously the main threat also is Marc Marquez. We've talked about that a million times, but I think that man knows how to win a few world championships. You've got Ogura on form, and then you've got the man we never talk about, Fabio Di Giannantonio, who, if he's listening to this podcast, or even if he listens to our TNT coverage, he'll be on the phone to me going, "What have I done to you guys?
We get on.
I'm on the podium every week, and you don't even mention my name." And he sits comfortably 3rd in the championship. I don't know how many points behind, but it's not many.
16.
Is it? So 16. So yeah, hopefully he's okay, but he's got to rectify these issues now.
What about the other side of the factory garage then? Jorge Martin went on and took his pole. First one with Aprilia, first one for a year and a half. But it never looked right, did it? Over the weekend. It looked like that. Now, the bike was the most stable bike out there. It was the most sorted bike. It was the one that was going through the corners best. But still, particularly for Martin, it looked unstable. It looked like it was having its troubles at certain parts of the racetrack. And then he did have a huge crash himself at 140 miles an hour coming through. So I don't think any of us were that convinced, were we, about Martin's threat, perhaps, unless he were able to get a lead like he did in the race. Unfortunately, was hunted down. I've got a feeling Jorge Martin will only get stronger as the year goes on. As in, I still think he's not quite at one with the bike. There've been more injuries, haven't they? You know, he had that huge off at Balaton when he was the bowling ball. But yeah, where are we at with Jorge? He is now, of course, our championship leader.
Yeah, it's funny because if you think about what I've just said about Bez, if he'd just taken a fifth, a third, a fourth, he'd be leading the championship, he'd have a decent lead. Maybe that's a little bit what Martin's done. The last 2 weekends, he has not looked good. It's not looked good. He's not looked comfortable on that Aprilia. It has looked nervous. We've studied the way he's been riding, the images we get off Chaz Davis, what we show on TNT Sports. So, like, it looks like he's overriding. He doesn't look comfortable on it. It's almost like he's lost a bit of feeling in it, or the direction.
Do you remember that weekend in Barcelona, for example? How many crashes do you have? 6 crashes over the whole race weekend. And it's sort of like, it's felt like since then. I know Mugello, they had the podiums behind Bez, but they've been his only podiums until Sunday. Yeah.
So, but what you said, I agree with. You still feel like he's not fully clicked.
No.
If he finds the feeling like what it looks like I's got, he's your danger man, isn't he? Because he knows how to win a world championship. But
at this stage of the season now, Neil, we are 10 rounds in. When we go to Sachsenring in a couple of weeks' time, when we go there, that's the halfway point of the season. And you know what the second half of the season's like. It just rolls on and on. Like this last 4 races in 5 weeks have been crazy. Wait till we get later on in the year. And there's 6 races in 5 races in 6 weeks, between all the flyaway races, Qatar being shoved in the middle, and then Portimao and Valencia at the end. So it's 8 races in 10 weeks, effectively, or even weekend to weekend. It's almost 8 and 9 weeks. It's that tight that things are happening towards the end of the year. And if you aren't sorted, then it will bite you, won't it? If that's not that far away.
No. Well, it sort of quietens off a little bit after Germany. We've got Silverstone, but a bit of a break either side of that, and then it's on, isn't it? And I think that's what's happening. Your last 10 rounds, it's something like 10 rounds over 14 weekends. It's crazy. It's too much. It is too much. There's not one person you'll speak to in that paddock that says, "Oh, this is brilliant." Everyone's going, "What is this all about?" So, yeah, you're right. They need to get it sorted, whatever the issue is there. Because when you look at Ogura or you look at Raul Fernandez this weekend, they look stable. So
the only thing I would say between Ogura and Raul is feels more consistent, feels less up and down. Raul feels like it's one track yes, one track no. And I'm not talking Bruno. I know he was ill. I know he was having problems there, but it does feel like he needs a bit more confidence track to track. It's not consistent, whereas I feels like he's just consistently doing what he needs to do. If you look at his results this year, he's had 1 race that he hasn't finished, and that was the retirement in the USA. That's the only time
which was going to be 3rd.
And if you look at them, it's in Thailand 4th and 5th, in Brazil 5th and 5th, in USA 6th and would have been a 3rd. In Jerez, he was obviously with the mixed conditions on the sprint, and he was down in 15th, but 5th in the main race, 7th and 3rd in France, 8th and 8th in Barcelona, when we know that bike wasn't getting on with the lower grip, 8th and 4th in Italy. Again, probably should have been higher, cost him being 13th on the grid. Then in Hungary, he got stuck, didn't he, further down the order, and we know what that track's like to pass, but he was 4th in the race, second and first. Wow. What a position to be in. Shall we just move on to the rider who we promised we should talk about him, and that's Fabio Di Giannantonio, who, again, has had a very, very solid weekend. He's actually a 3rd and a 4th that he's had in the sprint. He was the top Ducati, though, over the weekend in terms of the points that he's brought home. Had a controversial race on Sunday, didn't he? came through and had that collision with Marc Marquez at the final corner. Now, I spoke to Davide Tardozzi after the race, and Marc Marquez then made the same point, actually. They were very, very keen to point out that Digi was only penalised for doing the shortcut, only for that, and not losing a second, and not penalised for the contact. Obviously, he took his medicine, did it, and still came through and took fourth place in the race. However, just on that incident, it's quite a touch point moment in the race. Contact where we've seen it happen between Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi before, on the other way around. Marc was on the inside. But I remember you saying it yourself at the time, that's a very, very late move. What's your reading of it, having watched it back?
Oh, it's a proper late move. It's contact, and from Digi, obviously diving up the inside of Marc Marquez, and Digi couldn't keep the bike on the track. So that's a penalty instantly, isn't it? That's what we've been told. We've also been told that the stewards are going to be more open. If that's a last lap, they're going to be let them battle within reason. But then I also don't understand what the complaint is, because whenever have you seen an incident happen on track and a rider get 2 penalties for that one incident? I've never seen that, and I don't think the stewards want to start adding that. So the stewards have looked at it. It's obviously an aggressive move. It is late. Digi didn't lose a second, so they could have made him drop one position, or they've given him the bigger penalty of the two. Like, drop one position would have been, maybe time-wise, 1 second. They've given him a long lap penalty, which is the biggest penalty they could have given him.
Well,
and I think
David Tardozzi wanted a double long lap. That's what he was saying. He felt it should have been a double long lap, one for the contact, essentially. Like, you know, Marc got the drop position, though, didn't he, in the Pedro incident? So, yeah, I'm just explaining what David was saying. I think what Marc was maybe intimating.
Yeah. And just think about it, because obviously in the first sprint race of the year, when Marc Marquez passed Pedro, similar move, late move, dive bomb, which we all like to watch. Marc ran off the track. Obviously, Pedro ran off the track. Marc got the penalty. The penalty was drop one position. Actually, in time-wise, if you calculate what Marc lost when he let Pedro pass, he might have lost 0.3 of a second. So Digi got a full 3-second penalty, because it's a long lap penalty. So I think I don't know if he must have lost nearly 3 seconds. So the penalty in the end was fair, I thought. And not obviously we get on with Simon Crafer. If I disagree with something he says, then I would say it. I'm not just saying this because he's a mate of mine. Like, I genuinely think he's called it so well this year, in his second year of doing a very difficult job. Every rider that comes up to see him feels hard done by. Every team manager. It's a very, very difficult one, and it was an interesting situation with the pass and running wide, but I think they got it right.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued. I can understand also, though, where Ducati are coming from in that, and feeling a little bit like the shortcut has to be penalised as well, because he hasn't, you know what I mean? He's got no penalty off the shortcut. That's the long, and Marc lost a second on that lap, or in that sector, whatever it was, to specifically. I get it. It's
probably, Gav, probably. Yet again, Marc Marquez could be involved in rewriting the rule book in an incident, because they'll look at that, analyse it, and learn from it, and move forward and go, okay, there is, like you've just said, an argument for that. So we might have to have that in place. Yet again. Here we go again.
But Digi's doing a fantastic job nonetheless, isn't he, then, to come through? The question I have about Digi is then, top Ducati in the championship, can he be a title contender? I'm gonna be frank here. Not looking like he's going to win many races. In this championship that we've got here, I'll be honest. I'd favour Aprilia's over him on some places, and I'd also favour Marc and the Ducati over him at other places. Can he be a title contender?
I would answer that by saying probably not. Or I would have answered that by saying probably not. You're going to have to go on a run and dominate a little bit to win this World Championship. But it's so different now, with all these points up for grabs, with so many races. If you can be Mr. Consistent, which he has, it's the top Ducati rider, there is no reason why you can't. I mean, he's won a race already. He won in Barcelona. But you don't feel like we're not sitting here now thinking Digi's going to go on a tear. He's going to send it. He's going to literally win 2 or 3 in a row. I can't say that. I really can't. But if he, like I said, he's consistent. He's not the best qualifier, which doesn't always help. But he's good later on in the races. He's really aggressive, and he's smooth. He's immaculate the way he rides. So absolutely, he can be a title contender.
Yeah, it's a similar kind of form, isn't it, to Ogura that he's shown, and who knows if he can find a zone for that bike. The thing he has is it's different. He uses the Ducati in a different way to both Pecco and to Marc Marquez, and I think he sort of feels like he doesn't have the tools necessarily that he needs to be able to challenge. Just a really quick word before we have another quick break about Ducati and Marc Marquez. It's not often we don't talk much about him, but it was a discreet weekend that he had. Gained a place because of his teammate's penalty on Saturday. Lost a place because of touching the green on the last lap himself. So again, it all equaled out. He leaves the weekend 40 points off the championship as he did before. How will he evaluate the weekend?
He seemed grumpy after the race, which is a normal, natural reaction because Mark's not used to finishing low down in a race. But definitely this morning, he will have woken up and thought, wow, that has been what a weekend. That was, if you think about it, that was a championship winning weekend for Marc Marquez. He started the weekend, like you say, 40 down. He ended the weekend 40 down. I know it's obviously a different leader. That was they would have paid before the weekend started a lot of money. They knew it was going to be a bogey track for him. We knew it was going to be a bogey track for him. The rest of the riders he's racing against knew it was going to be a bogey track for him, and it was. He's not physically fit enough or strong enough to race on the limit round there because of those fast changes of direction. You can't do it with 1.5 arms, and he proved it. And so, yeah, all in all, a very unspectacular weekend, but no one remembers what happens in Assen. All they remember is on that beautiful silver trophy, what names added to it. That's the only thing that matters. And Marc Marquez took a huge step forward to add in another one of his names to it.
And he's got Sachsenring next, which next time we'll be able to speak a bit more about at length. It sounded like Pecco Bagnaia, they wouldn't say what the technical problem was, but another technical problem. It didn't sound like anything, like a shutout that we're having from the KTMs. We'll speak KTM, Neil's theory when we come back. We're hoping to have a video message we can share for you from Sylvain Guintoli. And we just want to have a quick word about the fantastic Moto2 event that we had at Assen 2. We'll be back in a second. We're back for the final part of Gas It Out and our review of the Dutch TT at Assen in MotoGP. A reminder, you can get in touch with us, as always, on Instagram and YouTube at Gas It Out Pod. Send us a DM, fire us a message on there, comment under any of our posts, and comment under the videos if you're on YouTube. There's a really good community of people chatting away on there. Join our community, send us a message, and we'll maybe read it out next week when we've got our preview of the German Grand Prix. Neil, before the break, I teased your theory about KTM. Now, the official line over the weekend was that they'd had a problem when the bike was going. This was Aki IO to us. Bike was going over the curbs. Something on the bike was reacting to that. They knew what it was, and that's what had been causing the cutouts. Then on Sunday, we during commentary were reluctant to say it was an arm problem. We saw him shaking his arm, but after everything that had been through, we felt there was a technical glitch going on. We listened to the bike, to the onboard. It didn't sound quite right. Afterwards, Pedro suggested that he's been suffering with carpal tunnel syndrome, different to arm pump. Arm pump is the fascia on your muscles in your forearm, filling with blood and not able to release that. So the fascia gets tight and you get a sort of gripping sensation. Carpal tunnel is the gap between your wrist bones basically gets smaller and the blood is not able to flow through it. It's quite common. Get it actually, a lot of older people get that, get like that RSI kind of feeling, and it stops your fingers from going. So Pedro has said he's been going on for about a year now and he's going to go for surgery for it on Tuesday. Neil, we were discussing this in Schiphol Airport on Sunday night. Now, I will point out that we might have had a shandy. Was that what they called the drink that we were having?
Yeah, we had 2 shandies.
You posited a theory. How do you feel about your theory now, a day after?
Weirdly, now I've sobered up, maybe not quite as strong as I did when I was banging the table, standing up. So maybe I slightly regret how much effort I put in.
And there were people at Schiphol Airport going, "Oh, there's something going on there. What's going?"
He seems angry. He seems angry.
Fetch security.
So my theory, basically, we know KTM have had this issue for quite a lot of rounds now. We saw what happened when your bike cuts out during a race if a rider's directly behind you. We saw that in Barcelona. Thankfully, we dodged a huge bullet there. The whole community did. Since then, the issues continued to the point where it's such a crazy situation. I've never seen this before. It's such a dangerous situation. Over the weekend, was it 3 times Pedro's KTM cut out during practice sessions? And I feel like, this is my theory, that it got to the point.
Well, let's just, for legal reasons, it's
just a theory. It's just exactly. Just a theory. Just a theory. It's just a theory.
That cap's made out of tinfoil.
Exactly. It's just a theory. But they got to the point where they had an official warning. I'm assuming they've got. I'd like to think they'd had an official warning. Let's say
we know that the technical directors have spoken to them.
Exactly. And I'm sure it would potentially go along the lines of, if this happens again in the race, I don't know what they would do. I don't know if it happens again, what that looks like is that we will ban you from the next Grand Prix. I don't know what it looks like I say. But whatever the threat was, during the race, as he goes into turn 1 on lap 7, it was quite early on. I think when we turned the onboard up, I heard that the bike sort of do this weird cough and rev, which he'd commented saying that the bike's accelerating when he's shutting off. I think I heard it, but anyway. And then it quickly runs onto the curbs and then does this weird thing with his hand. My theory is this, that the team had spoke to Pedro and said, look, if we have an issue with the bike in the race, we know you've got this ongoing carpal tunnel issue. It's something that you've potentially talked about having done after this race with a weekend off. We've seen riders do this in weekends off. If there is an issue with the bike, we can't say there's an issue with the bike. So you're going to have to take one for the team. Now, the argument last night when we sat chatting about it was, well, he would never do that. And I went, no, but if Pitt sat down with him, what's Pitt's title?
Pitt, he's a motorsports director.
Yeah, the motorsport director. Like I said, this is just a theory. If he sat down with Pedro, who's
Can
been
we afford lawyers? Can we? I don't know. No, sorry.
No, we can't.
We can't even afford graphics. Never mind lawyers.
Absolutely. But if Pitt sat down with him and said before the race, look, we've got this massive issue. If it cuts off in the race, and that means you're not going to be able to race in Sachsenring. So everything we've done for you throughout your career, if you think he's been a KTM boy all the way, Red Bull rookies, it's been KTM all the way straight into the IO team, which obviously Io's now the team manager of the MotoGP team. I feel like, yeah, Pedro sort of owes them. And I think Pedro's a decent enough type of bloke that would go, yeah, okay, I'll do that for you. So that's my theory. There you go. I've put it out there. I think there was a technical issue with that bike. I'm convinced. I wonder if Danny Aldridge, for example, would think the same, because then you could request the data from the race to see, and you'd be able to see straight away by looking at the data. I don't know if they would do that or not, but that's my theory.
And again, it is just an idea, and I think. No, I wonder if there's. I've been trying to think if there's a middle line down there whereby, as you say, it's actually something that he's got at the moment. There are these things that
ongoing thing. So it was going to get it done anyway, potentially. So I tell you what will be if he doesn't get it done,
and it looks like it's been done at home with like a compass.
Yeah.
When he's had That doesn't look like sort of it's
You'd be
been
like,
done by a doctor in a hospital.
yeah,
That been
just
done in a back alley.
show us the scar, and he doesn't. You're like, I
You
said
was
it done. It's just
wrap some
just
bandage
a
around it.
bandage on it. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's a worrying
Who
time.
knows?
Otherwise,
It's a
isn't it? In
worrying time.
KTM, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's a worrying time for everybody, KTM. But we were saying, someone said, oh, you wouldn't want to be behind Pedro in the race. I said, you wouldn't want to be Pedro Acosta sat on the thing, because we've seen riders lose their lives over the years. I mean, Kenny Hines got killed at Cadwell Park in the 80s. I know it's a long time ago, but he had a technical issue on the straight, his bike cut out, and boom, dead. So yeah, worrying times, worrying times.
On a brighter note, let's talk quickly about
Hey,
Moto2.
I just want to add one thing about MotoGP.
I thought you said legal disclaimer.
No, no, you deal with that, Gav. You're the man with all the money. What about, and I'm not doing an old pile on here, but it is sort of funny, which I know that sounds harsh. It does sound like I'm piling on. Joan Mir completed 13 corners this weekend during the races. He crashed on the opening lap of the sprint race, and he crashed on the opening lap of the GP. Yeah, completed 13 corners. I mean, after the first time he'd finished both sprint and main races at the last race in Brno, that was the first time he'd finished both races since last year in, was it Japan? I think it's been 13 races since he'd managed to finish both races. And he backed up those two finishes with 2 first lap crashes. How is that possible? Is my question to you, Gav. You've been doing this job long enough. What's going on? It's crazy, isn't it?
I've absolutely no idea what is going on with Joan Mir. I'm just looking at his Instagram now, and he's put up like a black and white picture of himself that essentially says, "I'm not going to deny that this is becoming something that's difficult. This is, but not going to lie, this is hard, so frustrated." I was translating the Spanish. I didn't realize he'd written it in English underneath. Need to go home, reset, and come back stronger. Thanks for all your messages. Wow, it is a tough time, isn't it, for Joan Mir at the moment? Tough time for him.
I don't get it.
Tough time
I don't get it at all. Makes no sense.
He's shown last time. There he is. That was the post that he put up. Yeah, it's really, really hard, and it looks like he's going to keep a ride in MotoGP. That's the talk of the town, that he will have something for next year.
It sounds, Gresini Ducati. It sounds
like
like that's all the strong rumours. Which, if he's managed to secure that, his manager deserves 50% of whatever he's going to get paid, because he's been with that factory Honda for 4 years now, and he's crashed out of more than 50% of the races. I mean, it's not acceptable.
It's like when Marc Marquez left, he picked up the baton and said, "Hold my beer," one of those of, I'm going to pick up where you left off. I just want to have, before we leave, I just want to talk Moto2 and one of the best ever Moto2 races, I think, that we saw there, between David Alonso going off at the front. Senna just looking in the middle part of the race like he didn't necessarily have it. And then he was obviously dosing it out. Manuel Gonzalez got through on him and got through on others, got all the way to Alonso. And then we had this epic 3-way battle at the end. Gonzalez taking over at the front, the others then closing in on him. Just sort of being pushed backwards, coming back again. The last corner on the last couple of laps was just why we love the Assen circuit.
It was best Moto2 race I've seen in a long time. What I love, and it's weird that this rarely happens, but you had 3 riders that wanted to win for different reasons. It was such an important race. We know the 2 teammates, Aegis and Gonzalez, are pretty much going head-to-head for one MotoGP seat. And that's huge. It'll be a 2-year deal, life-changing. And obviously Gonzalez is leading the championship, but he's Spanish and he's a little bit older, where Senna's Australian, got the right passport, and everyone thinks he'll suit a bigger bike. But so those 2 were like literally racing for their future like you can't believe. And then you've got the animal that is David Alonso. He's an absolute winning machine and has had a difficult start to the season. He'd not won since last year in Hungary. He'd had a shoulder injury and looked like he was beat at one point in the race, but he did what very few people can do, just normally the greats, they're real special riders. he dug deep and somehow searched, and there was no quitting him. It was just attack. And it just delivered these three riders going at it, and it was a beautiful ride. Race, if you've not watched it, make sure you do, because it's why we love motorcycle racing.
Yeah, Gonzalez tried to defend, didn't he, towards the final corner? He rode that tight line, and in the end, I don't want to say he got it wrong, because I don't think
he didn't really.
He did what you're supposed to do, didn't he?
He did. You could argue he went a little bit too defensive, but we're talking about small margins. Like, he might have been a foot too defensive. If it had been a foot further over, that would have meant that Alonso would have had to be even wider. It's every now and again, a race finishes like that. No one's done anything wrong, because Senna did everything right. He was trying to set them up to square them off, because he knew they were going to make contact. I mean, it was just a beautiful, like I said, that last part of that race was just stunning.
Yeah, just what about that move from Alonso down? It wasn't.
Well, it's special,
it's not like he's on the curb on the outside of the racetrack. He's in the middle and still manages to turn in across Gonzalez. There was a millimetre between them, and still make the corner. That's the bit that blows your mind.
Yeah, it was maximum risk. It was win it or bin it, but it was the highest level of skill to have timed it where there wasn't contact. Like you said, it was a millimetre between them, but then he's so overloaded the front that surely he's going to lose the front, because he's carrying too much speed, because he had to get in front of Gonzalez. But then he's got the skill. He uses so much rear brake as well. So at that point where he's absolutely trail braking on the front, he's pulling it back with the rear brake. You watch his foot, you can see him just jam it onto that rear brake. And what a talent. What a talent. What a race. And so much to look forward to for the rest of the year, because Moto2 this year's been brilliant.
Well, now it feels like Alonso's joined the party, doesn't it? Like,
absolutely.
He's led all of the Grand Prix back in the Czech Republic. He's led a lot of it here. This time decided to have a look at Gonzalez, which I thought, again, is another one of those things of, you're doing what? What, the chap who can just go off and lead races by himself, you're going to have a look at him? And he did. Anyway, it was wonderful. Talking of winning machines, Max Quiles, just a really quick word on Moto3. Only riders to use the medium tyre.
Just boring. I'm so over Max Quiles. Sorry, I don't know Max, by the way, personally, and I am sort of joking, but Moto3, Sunday mornings, we get to the track and I'm so excited. I commentate on 50% of the races, but obviously if I'm not commentating, I'm sat right next to you and Michael commentating. And it's usually my favourite race of the day, and they've always been the same, haven't they? Moto3 races. It's rare you end up with a boring season, but bloody Max Quiles, the talented bugger, just has everybody in his back pocket. He's so bloody good that, he made the race boring. So I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, a wonderful performance again. He extends his lead in the championship, 90 points now. I mean, incredible. Right, that's all from us, I think. Have you got anything else to add? We've got to hear from Silvan, of course, before we go. I've asked him to record a video for us. We haven't seen it. This is what SG had to say about the weekend and what he's got coming up.
Hi guys, I'm really sorry I can't make the podcast live today, but I've got a good excuse. I'm in Japan, in Suzuka. I've had to fly there straight away from Assen on Sunday night. I am absolutely shattered. It's night now here, and obviously the jet lag is working his wonders, and we've had a food day testing today, which was great. It was good to be back on this beautiful track. Missed out on it last year, unfortunately, so really happy to be back. It's been completely resurfaced. It's such a beautiful place. So yeah, we've had a good day testing today, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit about MotoGP. I know you two are going to talk about it in details, but I'll give you a few impressions of the weekend. Now, the first thing is, this morning after breakfast here in Japan, we went to a 7-Eleven, which is the equivalent of a co-op in England, and Ogura, we wanted to buy a few like drinks and food and stuff for the day. Ogura was everywhere, on all the magazines. It just shows you, how important it is for the Japanese to have a champion, a new MotoGP winner. It's everywhere. So yeah, very popular win for the winner of Ogura this weekend in Assen, and he did it in such fashion as well. I mean, unbelievable. Coming back from it was front row, but getting a little bit beaten up at the start, coming back from 6, I think it was at the worst, making that gap back up. It was more than 3 seconds. The radar device problem that lost him another second, and he won by 2 seconds. So, I mean, what a victory! He had such great race pace; he was unreal. So, yeah, already really, really like the guy, and now he's well, it's good to see him doing this kind of stuff, and hopefully, it's going to be a challenger for the title as well. So, yeah, man of the weekend, Ogura, and close second probably by David Alonso for his move in Moto2. We had such a great Moto2 race. It's funny, for once the Moto3 race wasn't the highlight, so that was good to see. So yeah, except from that, what else? Well, I've been busy. I found some. I'm going to send you the picture for that. I found some really giant cloves of garlic, so that made me really happy. So I had to take a picture. So I'll send you that. Made me want to move to Japan, And I've also been shopping and found some, I don't know where I've put them. I found some nice, I don't know what it's called. They're like men's nappies. How good is that? They are the best in the world, those, in Japan. And you know why I get that? I know what you're going to say, you two. But I get that because here it's so hot, I put it inside my helmet so the sweat doesn't go on my face or inside the visor. So I'm really, really pleased with that. So I bought the big pack. It's a pack of 18, and I'm going to take them home, the ones I don't use anymore. Right, it's already a bit of a podcast, this message. So I hope you have a good time, and I'll see you soon, guys.
I can't believe Sylvain said those things. Can you, Neil? Honestly, that's so out of order, isn't it?
No, I think it was right what he said about you, but I think you got it wrong what he said about me.
Yeah,
bear in mind, we've no idea what he said. So.
We've not even heard it. We hope he has a good time in Suzuka. It's not going to be easy with his injuries. He told you, Neil, he's had some injuries recently.
He hadn't mentioned it.
Yeah, in Spa. Yeah. So anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we do obviously hope that him and his team has a good ride. Hopefully it'll go well for them. They've got all the kit that they need to do it. Hopefully it's better than Spa. That's all from us, Neil. We will reconvene. You're going on holiday, aren't you?
Going on holiday, going to Palma.
Magaluf?
Never been before. What's funny is my son's going there as well. Like literally, I fly tomorrow. Yeah.
Brilliant.
On Tuesday. So we're both flying on Tuesdays, and I'm literally going to be 20 minutes from him. So I keep threatening that I'm going to join him and his mates. And he's like, he's like, don't, Dad, don't. No. And I'm like, I might just turn up, do a bit of clubbing.
Oh God, embarrassing!
Can you can imagine me with my weird skinny legs doing my weird dance?
Well, I can imagine you like with a singlet on or something like that. A singlet. Yeah.
Yeah, with obviously my baseball cap on backwards,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
Going shouting,
I think it is time that we say goodbye here before he embarrasses himself anymore. Neil, thank you very much. Have a great holiday. All the best to Sylvain in Suzuka. And remember, if in doubt, gas it out.